The sky over Station Argon 7 burned in soft violet colors, as two moons hung low over the alien desert. Human engineer Leo Turner stood near the edge of the metallic platform. Wiping sweat from his brow, the heat of the twin suns was finally fading, and for a moment, everything looked peaceful. But peace, he would learn, was an illusion here. "Watch yourself, human," came a voice from behind. It was Commander Telva, a tall Arvani male with skin like silver stone and eyes like molten blue fire. He stepped forward, folding his forearms behind his back, his voice firm but calm. "The females are entering pairing season," Telva said. "You would be wise to stay clear." Leo blinked, confused. "Pairing season?" he asked, pulling off his gloves and sitting on a nearby crate. Telva nodded slowly. "Their biology changes. Emotions run wild. Instincts take control. Do not engage, do not talk too long, and for the sake of peace, do not forget to lock your quarters at night." Leo laughed lightly, thinking it was some kind of alien joke, but Telva didn't laugh. He only stared for a long second before turning and walking away. The warning hung heavy in the air, like a cloud before the storm. Leo had been on Argon 7 for only 2 weeks, sent as part of a repair team from Earth. The station was shared between humans and the Arvani species. An uneasy partnership formed. After years of cold silence between the two worlds, Leo liked the work. It was peaceful, quiet. And the stars here were clearer than back home. But now, this strange talk about pairing season stirred something in his chest curiosity. Later that evening, while walking through the supply corridor, he saw her again. She was tall, graceful, with soft amethyst skin that shimmered like morning mist. Her name was Kira, and she was one of the science assistants on the base. Their paths had crossed a few times before, nothing serious. Just a few polite greetings and awkward smiles. But tonight, her eyes followed him longer. Not just with interest, but with something deeper, something harder to name. Her gaze made Leo's neck stiffen, and for the first time, he remembered Telva's warning. He nodded politely and kept walking, but he could feel her watching. Even after he turned the corner that night, Leo stood under the sonic shower in his room, steam curling around him. His thoughts were restless, bouncing between memories of home and the look in Kira's eyes. He dried off, tossed on his sleep clothes, and stared at the heavy door console next to his bed. The button to lock the door glowed soft blue, but he hesitated. "It's just a story," he thought. "Just some alien tradition, nothing will happen." The station was secure, quiet, and besides, Kira didn't seem dangerous. He yawned, stretched his arms, and climbed into bed without pressing the lock button. The door stayed unlocked, humming silently in the background. Hours passed, and the station sank into sleep. Outside, the moons drifted over the sand dunes, casting silver shadows through the glass panels inside Leo's room. All was still, except for the soft sound of his breathing. But just after midnight, there was a sound, soft, like fabric against metal. Leo stirred, half awake, eyes fluttering open. The room was dark, lit only by the blue night lamp. And standing there, just inside the doorway, was Kira, silent, unmoving. Her glowing eyes locked on his face. Leo froze, his mind racing, heart pounding like a drum. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Kira stepped forward slowly, each movement smooth like a dream. Her voice was barely a whisper, trembling and soft. "I tried not to come," she said, "but I can't fight it." Leo sat up, alarmed, unsure whether to call security or stay still. The temperature in the room felt like it dropped. Though no wind blew, he realized then this wasn't just about instincts or science. Something ancient was happening here, something far beyond human rules, and he had left the door open. The silence between them was deep, like time had stopped. Kira didn't move, and neither did Leo. Her glowing eyes looked strange in the soft blue light, full of something he couldn't understand. Not anger, not fear, but a kind of hunger. Not the kind that needed food, but something inside her. Something pulling her forward. Leo cleared his throat, his voice dry. "Kira, are you okay?" It asked carefully. She stepped closer, her bare feet almost silent on the metal floor. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. "But I wanted to see you." Leo's heart beat faster, his brain warning him to call for help. But she didn't look dangerous, only confused, maybe even sad. Her hands stayed at her sides, fingers curling slightly like she was trying to hold something. She wasn't aggressive, but she wasn't normal either. "I remembered the door," she said softly. "I hoped you'd forget to lock it." Leo blinked, stunned. That wasn't something a person just admitted, not even an alien. It wasn't a joke. And it wasn't romantic, it was something else entirely, something raw. He stood up slowly, careful not to make sudden moves. "Kira, you said it's the season, right? Maybe you should go back to your room, yeah?" But she didn't turn around. Instead, she tilted her head, like she was listening to a sound only she could hear. "They say it's just instincts," she said, "but it's not. Not with you." Leo felt his throat tighten. "What do you mean?" he asked, backing slightly toward the console. "To me, it feels like a choice," she whispered. "I chose you." Leo froze, the words hitting harder than he expected. He looked at her. Lily looked. Her body was tense, like she was fighting something invisible, not just tradition, not just biology, but fear. "I didn't come to hurt you," she added quickly. "I just wanted to be near you for a moment." She looked down, ashamed. "I've been trying to fight it." "I have." Her voice cracked slightly. "But when I close my eyes, it's you I see." Leo didn't know what to say. He had seen strange things on alien planets, but nothing like this. A beautiful alien girl in his room, fighting her own instincts, risking shame more worse to talk to a human she barely knew. This wasn't a game. This was real. Too real. "I think you should go," he said gently, "before someone sees." She nodded slowly, blinking fast, like holding back tears. "I understand," she said, stepping back. "I didn't mean to scare you." She reached for the door, but her hand paused just an inch from the control. She didn't press it. Not yet. Instead, she looked over her shoulder one last time. "Next time, lock the door," she said quietly, her voice hollow. "Or I might not be strong enough to walk away." Then the door hissed open, and she was gone, just like that. The room was empty again. But Leo stood frozen, unable to move. His heart still beat like thunder in his chest. The air still felt heavy, charged. He sat down slowly, wiping sweat from his face. Was this what Telva had warned him about? Or was this something no one had? The words for... He didn't sleep that night. He just stared at the door, and this time he locked it tight. But it was already too late. Because the moment she looked at him like that, he had already let her in. The next morning, Leo acted like nothing happened. He walked into the mess hall, grabbed a tray, sat at his usual seat near the corner window. But inside, his chest was not calm. His thoughts spun in circles, replaying every word, every movement. From last night, he had seen many strange things across the galaxy. But nothing shook him like Kira's whisper in the dark. He didn't tell anyone, not Telva, not the other humans, not even his terminal logs. Some part of him knew if he reported it, she might get taken away, questioned, maybe worse, and he didn't want that. Even if he didn't understand what she wanted. It didn't feel like something evil. It felt like something old, something sacred, and maybe something lonely. The mess hall felt colder than usual. He could feel eyes on him, but he didn't look up. Some Arvani males had started watching him lately, Maybe they had seen the way Kira looked at him in the labs. Maybe they could smell it, whatever this bond thing was. Leo didn't know how Arvani's senses worked, but they were smart and they were proud. They didn't like things out of order. He finished his food fast and left, walking toward Engineering Bay 3. But as he reached the hallway turn, he saw her Kira. She was standing at the end of the corridor, facing away from him, still. He knew it was her, the shape of her shoulders, the soft glow of her skin in the shadows. His feet stopped moving, but his heart didn't. He should have turned back, walked away, but instead, he stood there, saying nothing. Maybe he was waiting for her to turn. Maybe he wanted to see if her eyes still held that same storm. After a moment, she turned. Her expression wasn't wild like the night before. She looked tired, her eyes softer, like someone who had cried in private. They didn't speak, not with words. Only a long look passed between them, a quiet moment full of questions neither dared to ask out loud. Then she gave him a small nod, turned, and walked away again. No words, no drama, but Leo stood there, frozen again, like her silence had reached into his bones. Later that day, Leo tried to bury himself in his work. Wiring repairs, coolant flow. Checks, boring tasks that kept his hands busy, but every time he blinked, her face appeared in his mind. That soft sadness, that quiet longing, and he hated that he didn't understand it. Or worse, he was starting to feel the same way at night. He stood in front of the door again, hand hovering over the lock. His thumb almost pressed it, but didn't. Instead, he whispered to himself, "It's just for a moment," and left. It unlocked. He lay in bed, eyes open, watching the ceiling lights fade to dark mode. He listened to the hum of the bass, the soft vibration under the floor. Then he heard it again. Soft footsteps, like breath on metal. The door opened with a hiss. But this time, she didn't stand in the shadows. Kira stepped in slowly, calm, no shame. Her voice didn't shake, and her eyes didn't waver. "You didn't lock the door," she said. Leo sat up, not frightened this time. "I know," he replied, voice low. She stepped closer, and he could smell the soft, strange scent of her skin like starlight and flowers from a world he'd never seen. She didn't reach for him, didn't speak of instincts. She just stood beside the bed, breathing slowly. "I've been dreaming of you," she said, "for nights now." Her voice was gentle, not desperate like before, but it's more than the season. She added, "I feel something I don't understand." Leo looked into her eyes and realized they were the same. Alien, yes, but full of emotion, just like human eyes. He reached out, not touching, just close enough that she could choose, and slowly she placed her hand near his. Not on it, not yet, but close. That night, they didn't touch, they didn't kiss, or break any rules. They just sat in silence until the stars moved again, too. Souls caught between instinct and choice, and the door stayed open until dawn. The next day. The base didn't feel the same. Every hallway, every passing face, felt like it carried a secret. Leo walked through the corridors with quiet steps, like someone holding a weight no one else could see. He hadn't done anything wrong, not really. But the air around him felt heavier, like eyes were always watching, even when no one was there. He didn't see Kira at morning check-in. She had been reassigned. Someone told him, away from science labs, away from human work zones. No reason given, no official update. Just a silent shift in her schedule, like someone was trying to keep her away from him. He tried to focus on work, but his mind kept drifting back to that last moment. To her voice, to her calm presence beside him. She hadn't come to push or to take. She came to understand, and maybe to be understood later. Leo returned to the maintenance tunnel, where signal relays needed calibrating, a dark place with humming walls and low ceilings. A place no one visited unless absolutely necessary. There, he found her again. Kira stood at the far end. Arms crossed, eyes distant. She didn't look surprised to see him. Like she had been waiting all along. "You shouldn't be here," he said, stepping closer. She turned her head slowly. "Neither should you." They were both out of place. Now, two figures caught in a current bigger than either of them understood. "I didn't sleep," she whispered. "I kept thinking. Maybe I'm cursed." Leo frowned. "Why would you say that?" "Because I feel something real for someone I'm not supposed to," she said, voice shaking now, and no matter how much I try to fight it, it keeps growing. She looked at him then, not with wild hunger, but with quiet hope. "I was taught that pairing season is sacred," she said, "that it chooses for us. But when I see you, it doesn't feel like I've been chosen by instinct. It feels like I've chosen you with something deeper." Leo stepped closer, feeling the tension in the air. The tunnel around them felt still, like the base itself was holding its breath. "You're not cursed," he said softly. "You're just different, and maybe that's what scares them." She closed her eyes, her breath catching in her throat. "I've been ordered to stay away," she said, "but I can't obey that anymore. I want to understand what this is." Between us, suddenly, footsteps echoed from the far entrance. Kira pulled back, panic in her eyes, without thinking. Leo grabbed her hand and pulled her behind the maintenance panel. They crouched together, close, hidden in the shadows, hearts pounding. In rhythm. A patrol passed by Arvani security, silent and scanning. Looking for something or someone, Leo felt her hand tighten around his. She was afraid. Not of him, but of being seen with him. Of what her people might do if they found out. When the patrol finally passed, they stayed in the shadows for a while. Neither spoke. Leo could feel the warmth of her beside him. Not just physical warmth, but something deeper. The connection that no warning could erase. "They'll separate us," she whispered. "If they know, then we don't let them know." Leo replied, voice steady. "We figured this out." Quietly, she nodded, but her face still carried fear. "Do you really want to understand?" she asked. Leo looked her in the eyes. "Yes, even if it means breaking rules." Her expression softened. "And if I lose control one night?" she asked, voice trembling again. "What if instinct wins over choice?" Leo gave a small smile. Sad but true. "Then I'll be strong enough for both of us." And in that moment, something unspoken formed between them. Not a bond of tradition, not a connection forced by biology, but something rare, trust built from defiance, the kind of trust that grows in secret, away from all laws. The sky over Argon 7 darkened earlier that evening. A dust storm rolled across the edge of the desert, and warning lights blinked across the station. But Leo wasn't thinking about the storm. His thoughts were only on her Kira. She hadn't messaged all day. No sign, no signal, no hidden meeting in the tunnel like before. Just silence. He sat in his dim room, staring at the door again. It was locked this time, like it should have been, but he kept glancing at it, half hoping it would hiss open without warning, half fearing it would. The line between fear and desire had blurred now. He didn't know which part of him was stronger anymore. Just past midnight, a soft chime echoed from his wrist console. Encrypted. Message, untraceable, Garden Dome. Now, come alone. No name, but he knew. Only one person sent messages like that, Kira. Leo threw on his jacket and slipped into the corridor. Keeping low, avoiding patrols, the Garden Dome was mostly unused. During storms. Too fragile, too far from the command center. Perfect for a meeting no one wanted noticed when he entered. The warm scent of alien flowers filled the air. Moist air brushed his skin as he stepped deeper inside, and then he saw her Kira standing. Beneath the glowing vines, her back turned to him. She didn't speak right away. She waited until he was close enough that she didn't have to raise her voice. They told me I'm dangerous now, she whispered. They moved me too. Isolation quarters. Leo's jaw tightened. Because of me. Because I didn't obey, she said quietly. Because I didn't stop coming to you. She turned around slowly. Her eyes different tonight. Not glowing wildly, not lost in heat. But steady, determined. I don't want to be ruled by instinct, she said. But I also don't want to pretend this connection isn't real. Not anymore. Leo stepped closer, his voice softer now. So why call me here? Because I want to choose, she said, her voice shaking slightly, for once in my life. I want to choose something not because of tradition or command, but because I want it. A moment passed in silence. The vines around them swayed gently. In the recycled breeze, I choose you, Leo, she said. Not because of pairing season, not because of biology, but because when I'm with you, I feel safe. Leo swallowed hard, the words catching him off guard. He hadn't come looking for love. He hadn't planned for any of this. But now, hearing her say those words, standing under alien leaves in a forgotten dome, he felt something inside him settle, like a puzzle finally finding its missing piece. He reached out, gently brushing his fingers along her arm. No pressure, no pulling, just presence. And she leaned into it, closing her eyes. Breathing steady, suddenly, a loud beep from the control panel lit up the dome in red. Security alert. Perimeter scan picking up movement. Someone's coming, Leo said, stepping back. Kira grabbed his arm. Her voice low, urgent. We don't have time. They'll find us. Then we leave, he said. Without hesitation, her eyes widened. What? Right now, he said, already checking escape paths on his wrist screen. There's an old survey shuttle docked under Bay 6, still powered, barely used. But if we leave, we can't come back, she said, her voice shaking again. They'll call us traitors. Leo looked her in the eyes. I'd rather be a traitor with you than a coward without you. Kira stared at him like she couldn't believe what she was hearing, and then, quietly, she nodded, not in fear, but in trust for the first time in her life. Someone wasn't trying to control her, correct her, or contain her. He was just standing beside her. Together, they disappeared into the storm. With nothing but courage, one old shuttle, and a bond that had broken every rule. Asterisk wind howled against the metal skin of the survey shuttle as it climbed through the storm. The sky above Argon 7 flashed with electric blue veins inside the ship. Kira sat silently by the window, watching the clouds spin below. Her fingers trembled slightly on her lap. She had left everything behind, her home, her duty, her people, all for a human she barely knew, and yet knew completely. Leo worked at the controls, hands steady despite the turbulence. He hadn't said much since takeoff, only gave her a blanket, checked the systems, and adjusted course. But every movement was calm, focused, strong. She watched him now, not with desire, but with awe. No Arvani male had ever looked at her like she had a choice. Leo always had. You still sure? He asked. Eyes on the nav screen? Yes, she replied softly. I'd rather be free with you than perfect for them. He gave a short nod, then leaned back in the pilot chair. The silence between them wasn't cold, it was warm, like sitting beside a fire after a long night. The shuttle broke atmosphere, stars spilling into view like silver dust, and for the first time in her life, Kira wasn't being pulled by instinct or rule. She was simply moving forward, with someone who chose her back. But peace didn't last long. An alarm blinked red, an incoming signal. Encrypted Arvani military band. Leo tapped the screen. Voice tight. They found us. Kira stood slowly, her chest tight. They'll try to bring me back, she said. They won't care what I want. Leo looked at her, and his voice was firm. Then, we don't let them. They had less than 10 minutes before interception. Leo rerouted the ship toward nearby asteroid cluster dense, full of debris, hard to scan. A perfect place to hide, if only briefly. Inside the narrow cockpit, they moved like a team. She read gravity signals while he adjusted thrusters. They didn't need to speak much. Somehow, they just understood each other. "They'll chase us through the rocks," she said, eyes narrowing. "I'm counting on it," Leo replied, a small grin forming. The ship dived into the asteroid field, engines whining under stress. The Arvani patrol ship followed, faster, heavier, but less nimble. Leo spun through narrow gaps, letting the debris hide their path, and Kira, despite her fear, felt a thrill inside her chest. This wasn't running, it was flying. For the first time, she wasn't waiting to be caught. She was choosing to escape. A sharp lurch threw her off balance, and she caught herself on Leo's chair. He reached up and grabbed her hand without looking. She held on tightly. Not because she was afraid of falling, but because that simple touch reminded her that she wasn't alone anymore after several minutes of chaos. The chase ended. The Arvani ship couldn't keep up. It vanished from radar, unable to track through the debris field. Silence returned, heavy and beautiful. "We lost them," Leo said at last. Leaning back with a tired breath, Kira smiled. A small one, the kind that came from deep relief. But then her smile faded, and she looked at him with worry. "What happens now?" she asked. "We're fugitives?" Leo stood, walked over to her, and took both her hands gently in his. "We find somewhere new," he said. "A place where no one tells us who we can or can't be with." She blinked slowly, as if tasting the words in her mind. "I've never been anywhere without rules," she whispered. "Then we'll write our own," he said. Outside the window, stars burned quietly in the dark. They had no map, no allies, no plan. Just a stolen shuttle, one fragile promise. And each other. But somehow, that felt enough, and somewhere deep inside the drifting ship, her pairing season continued, but it wasn't controlling her anymore. It was following her heart. The stars outside the window felt closer now. Not because the ship was moving faster, but because Kira was no longer running from herself. In the quiet of deep space, far from rules and patrols, something inside her had changed. It wasn't just the fading grip of pairing season. It was the feeling of being seen not as a subject or a function but as a person. Leo sat across from her in the crew quarters, a small table between them. He was fixing a broken COM scanner, wires spread out like tangled vines, but every few seconds he looked up, not with suspicion, not with fear, just calm curiosity. Kira noticed every glance, and for the first time, it didn't make her nervous. It made her feel steady, like the space between them had become a kind of home. "I used to dream about escaping," she said. Suddenly, voice soft. "Not just the laws or the seasons, but the walls in my own mind." Leo set down the tool in his hand and leaned forward slightly. "Did those dreams ever show someone like me?" She smiled gently. "No, they didn't go that far," she replied, "but they always ended with me." "Free," he nodded, understanding without needing more words. Freedom wasn't a place, was a feeling, and it was rare, even among stars. But their silence didn't last. A blinking light on the console near the door caught Leo's eye. Long range. Transmission incoming. Scrambled, he opened it cautiously, expecting a distress signal or automated beacon. Instead, a familiar face filled the screen. Commander Telva. His stone-gray face was stern, but not angry. He didn't speak at first, just stared at them through the screen. Then his voice came, calm but heavy. "You broke a law, human," he said. "But you didn't break her." Kira stood slowly. Her breath caught in her throat. Telva continued, "You were warned, and yet, she's still alive, still herself." Leo stepped beside her, unsure what this was. A threat or something else. "I cannot protect you," Telva added, "but I will not chase you either. You were right to leave." Silence followed. And then the screen went black. Leo blinked, confused. Was that permission? Kira shook her head slowly. "No," she said. "It was respect for their kind that meant more than forgiveness. It meant acknowledgement that what they had done, while not accepted, was seen, and maybe, in time, even remembered days." Past as they drifted through open space, they found a small moon station. Abandoned but livable, Leo repaired the systems, cleaned the air vents, powered up a water line. Kira set up a sleeping area and filled the old shelves with things like smooth stones, dried petals, little bits of color from the worlds she once knew. Together, they made something new, something theirs. One evening, as soft light filled the tiny living pod, Kira sat beside Leo and leaned her head on his shoulder. "I'm not in season anymore," she whispered. "I know," he replied gently. "Then why does my heart still race when you're near?" Leo turned and looked at her. No teasing, no hesitation. "Because now, it's not your body calling," he said. "It's your soul." And she smiled, truly smiled, not because instinct told her to, but because it came from a place that had nothing to do with cycles or rules, only truth in a cold universe filled with silence and stars. A human and an alien girl had broken 1,000 rules, not with war or weapons or rebellion, but with a choice. She was meant to obey. He was meant to stay away, but they had found each other, and no one, not biology, not tradition, not an empire could take that away now. Together, they stared out the window, watching the stars drift by. And for once, neither of them felt like they were floating. They felt like they had finally landed.